Hello, 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 hello. We're coming to you from the ham capital of the world, Smithfield, Virginia, with Beyond the Sermon. We're so glad to join you on Father's Day evening. So glad you could be with us. Want to introduce two lovely ladies to my right. Yes, absolutely. I'm working for points here. These are our wives, Jen and Mallory. Tim is, of course, always off screen because we've decided he has a face for radio. But we have him off site. And decided that we would bring in our wives this Father's Day because who knows us better, right? And on Father's Day, we figured we could talk family, we could talk struggles, we could talk real life, and just get real with everybody tonight. So thank you for being on here. This is not their cup of tea. We're just going to tell you straight up.
No, it's not.
They're a little anxious.
But yes, thank you for coming on, and happy Father's Day to my father and every other father out there, and whoever's tuning in. If you are a father, happy Father's Day to you too. But as usual, participate. We always want you to kind of chime in. You could always phone call, and I'll get that number listed.
I got it right
there.
here. So you can call in to area code 757-357-2536. 757-357-2536. Love to have some calls in today and love to interact. You can also, of course, shoot things down at the bottom there, and we'll field those as they come in.
And I always like to point out some of the people that we got on here. We got Anna Arnold.
Awesome. Hi, Anna.
And we have,
Hi, Anna.
We have Craft Gaming, which we know who that is.
Yeah, we know who that is.
That guy.
Behave yourself.
So, but yep, I'll get that phone number posted up there. And heck, if you really want to chime in, just give us a call or type it in chat, and we'd be more than happy to hear. So we're gonna dive into some little icebreaker here, but first and foremost,
All right, let's pray.
Pray us out.
Dear God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for the fathers in our lives. We thank you that you are our eternal Father. We thank you for the opportunity to be here together, just have some good times, have some laughs, have some good conversation about what it means to do family, to do close family connections, and just try to navigate a changing, difficult world. Be with us in our conversation. Help us to have a wonderful time. Bless all who hear it, both tonight and the rest of the week. And maybe be for your glory, always your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick,
Fire
for
away.
that prayer. So we are going to do who's more likely to. So,
All right, so is there going to be like an order to this? They get to answer first, or do we have to
listen to
answer?
them. They're the guests. Let's
All right,
let them
okay.
answer.
Well,
okay?
we'll defer to
Well,
the guests.
shouldn't it be that we have to be in
Like separate
like-
rooms? So you can't hear the other
so you
person? There you
can't
go.
see me?
No.
Who's more likely?
This is going to turn in. We're going to argue this out. Okay.
So it's going to be you and Mallory, and then
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
like spouses?
Yeah, so
Spouses.
she's gonna tell me I'm wrong, and I'm telling her she's the one that does it. She always, and then well, it'll be fun. It's gonna be a hoot. Hold on.
this is already a hoot.
See, our wives have never seen.
It's terrific.
Our wives have never seen behind the scenes. They just see what you guys see. So this
Just
is
live with you.
well,
All
that
right.
is true.
So
God
let's
knows.
start out. This is for the crowd. Okay. All right.
For the crowd,
For
our fans.
yes.
Okay.
Who is more likely to lose their keys or phone? And I'm going to say Mallory.
Yes, definitely.
I think it's Patrick.
Patrick.
And you're a bold-faced liar
You lose your
too.
keys constantly.
You leave them in the door, love of my life.
Well, then I know where they are. I didn't lose them.
I know where they are. Hello, intruder. I'm glad I let you in.
Okay. Well.
All right, so there's debate between Jen
Yes,
and I.
there's going to be some debate.
And she is right. I do happen
Lose
to
his
lose
keys
things on a
constantly.
regular basis. This is fair.
I always put mine in the bucket or the door.
Or the
It's
front
the-
door. Yeah. So
Mine
thief
always
who's
hung up
watching.
at
Yeah,
front
he
door.
hangs his up at the door. I usually keep mine in my purse pocket.
Okay.
It's
so
my phone that gets lost.
Here's a
though.
phone.
Oh.
number.
Got it.
Who is more likely to bust out singing in the shower?
You.
Me.
Me, probably.
Jen.
I sing. I got the most beautifulest voice in the shower.
I can believe that.
I'm like an angel.
You're like an angel from
Like an
straight from the
angel
heaven.
From the heavens. That,
And then you get out and all goes downhill from there.
except until I get my car. When I get my car,
Oh,
it's
then
like
you sound awesome,
it's,
too.
It's amazing. Yes. So,
What else you got?
who is more likely to laugh at the wrong moment?
Patrick.
Well, that's because I induced the moment. Is that what we're saying?
Because I just think it's funny. It's funny. And maybe if someone fell down and knocked their knee or something,
Yeah, yeah.
that could be funny.
I'm
that
all for
might not have
physical
been
humor.
that might have not have been the best moment to
Yeah.
laugh.
I mean, eventually I will check to make sure you're okay. But I'm going to have to stop laughing first. This is true.
So if Jen fell off that stool she's
He
sitting
would
on,
laugh.
Oh, I'd be laughing so hard I wouldn't be able to breathe. Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
would need to check on her. While
I mean,
you-
she knows.
oh, she knows.
Yeah, I mean, she knows what she got into on that one. But there's no doubt.
All right.
And my
So
kids all got it too, all three of them.
Yes.
This is a good one because we'll argue. on this
Wasn't
one.
there a story about Caden when he was a baby and you walked into the wall or something and Caden laughed at you?
Yes. I don't remember all the details, but he was itty bitty. I mean, we're talking 3-4 months. And I ran into the corner of the door or something with my elbow and, whack. And I go, oh my gosh. And he goes, like 4 months old. And I remember telling Jen, I was like, oh yeah, we can see the world the exact same way.
Well, just to let you know, it looks like Mom has hit every single one of them on by Mr. Kraft Gaming. You've
Mom.
you've hit every single one of them.
That's
But
our
who
oldest.
who loses their sunglasses all the time?
Oh, that's me.
Oh.
Although I don't know.
I lost mine on my face today at the football game. I didn't know they were on my face.
Oh, well, they were up on your head. Or
No,
like
they
No,
were
they were on their
on
eyes.
my eyeballs.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
All right, so this is going to be.
You lost yours?
My
Yeah, she
sunglasses?
loses. She
I've
misplaces
lost
everything.
sunglasses a time or two.
No, ask her where her Ray Bans are.
What are Ray-Bans?
Those are nice
Yeah.
sunglasses.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where are your Ray Bans? Now she
I now
gets
have the
inexpensive
Amazon
ones.
sunglasses,
She gets
it's
Amazon
okay.
ones now. Anyway, so
We get Dollar Tree ones.
Yeah.
yeah, y'all.
That's how cheap we are.
That's
All right, this is going to be a little bit of a.
So think before you answer.
Well, at least for the Bradleys, because here we go. Let me find it on my list. Where is it? Oh, okay. Here
So
we
is-
go.
you got it?
Who's more likely to donate the most items during a closet clean out?
Oh, there's no argument. You're sentimental with everything.
not.
Yes, you
She thinks
are.
I'm a hoarder.
He
She
has
thinks I'm
shirts.
wait. Sentimental or a hoarder? Wait a minute.
Because he has shirts that he won't get rid of because his uncle gave them to him. They were like hand-me-downs from his uncle when he
nice
was in
shirts.
high
I
school.
mean,
Ask Patrick how many old shirts he has of his grandfather.
all right, but hold on. The
Quite a
Woods
few.
didn't answer that. Who's more likely to?
Well, my husband would never clean out a closet, so
That's tough though. But to be
no, that's tough.
says Miss Jen.
tough. But I will tell you that there was a moment in our marriage when I realized that inside a drawer full of stuff that I had moved, count it, 4 times in our married life, there was a 5th grade math test of hers.
Well, you'll never know if
That
I
I had-
might need it.
You know, right. You might need to refer back to it. Right. So yeah, so I
Well,
don't know.
somebody else
That's
is
tough.
throwing it. Dad does not have anything compared to Mom.
Oh, nice.
Doesn't this child have things he's supposed to be doing?
There it is. That's what
There it is. Score.
You have some things to do, son.
You are definitely
working.
a hoarder, though. I would say.
All right,
You're a
do we?
sentimental hoarder, apparently.
Sentimental
Too.
hoarder. But we did clean out the garage, and we did get a lot of stuff.
So real
I
quick.
like baby clothes.
All right, hold on, real
does.
quick. Why somebody we can talk about real quick. I just want to throw it out to the audience. All right, so if the audience member, anybody out there that could come up with a who's more likely to, a real quick one. This will be our last one. If anybody could throw one out there, and then we'll all have to answer.
Well, why
it.
don't you give us one, and then they can think about it when they
Yes.
fire it
Yep.
in, and we'll do it on a break.
All right, who's more likely to misplace the TV remote?
Our kids.
Kid.
Yes.
It's not us.
Not all. I'm
daily.
constantly looking for it.
Yes.
Okay, that was an easy one.
Yeah, that was very easy.
All
Want to
right,
do two?
who's
One
more likely to cry at a touching scene in a movie?
Jen.
I think Mallory too. Yeah, I'm not a huge crier, but I don't know. Homeward Bound, that'd make you cry.
Who?
Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound.
Oh my god.
Oh, you don't
Is that
remember
the movie with the dog and the cat running around?
The
Two
talking
dogs
dog,
and a
yeah, the two
cat.
talking
Don't
dogs,
you
yeah,
remember?
yeah.
Watch that with
Sassy.
Hayden.
I mean, you didn't know if Shadow didn't make it. I mean, I'm gonna get choked up right
Didn't
here.
care if Shadow made it either.
Shadow was like the most important one. He's like the studious one.
Which one was that?
Shadow was the golden
heartless.
retriever.
Yeah.
He's heartless.
Yes, Shadow.
It was a talking dog, dude.
But you know what? It was sad. He was stuck in the hole, and you didn't know if he was gonna make it.
All right, sentimental hoarder. Let's move on.
Really emotional.
Yeah, you really.
hoarder.
Our sentimental hoarder here is getting pretty
Surprise.
worked up about this fake dog and cat talking
All right,
show.
so we didn't get one, but anyway, let's move on
Well,
to.
they might need to.
Yeah, the
We
process.
could
You,
come
there
back.
wasn't a lot of time.
We can circle back.
That's right.
We have
That's
a
what we
circle
do.
back segment.
Oh, we
So
do.
yes, we do. And if you guys, if our
Oh,
wives,
wait,
would,
I saw something ding.
Oh.
Oh.
who was more likely?
Wait, who'd it come from?
Storm Knight.
Oh!
Okay,
I hope it's appropriate, Storm.
it is. There it is.
David, are you sorry,
Who is
checking
more
on this?
likely to take the trash out?
Well, I know that
Oh.
one.
We have a 14-year-old, almost 14-year-old.
No, no. All right, let's take him out of the equation.
Out of
Who
the
did
equation?
it? Who did it before?
You know, to be fair, Jen does most of all of that kind of stuff, but usually I do take out the trash. But that's only because she really legitimately does like all of the cooking and most of the cleaning. So that's particularly.
When was the last time you cleaned a bathroom?
It's been a long time since I've cleaned a bathroom.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Okay, hoarder, what do you got in your bathroom?
That's wrong.
How many of your
I
Uncle
clean
Jerks are in your
bathrooms.
bathroom?
I clean bathrooms.
All right. Okay. Moving on. So let's segue now. We'll take another one if anybody's got one. We got time. These are easy.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, you got one? Someone firing one at you? on the
Tara
phone?
Lee.
Tara Lee, nice. Hey, Tara Lee.
What's the weirdest thing you ever found in a house that you moved into and wish you knew more?
Another one if anybody's got one. We got time. These are easy.
Oh, here we go.
I think Tara Lee might be referring to an event at our house when we moved in.
I don't know. Terrifying thing in my house.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever found at your house when
We
you just
moved
moved
into
in?
Tara Lee's house.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
was
the
there-
jokes are
So
the jokes are endless.
The jokes are endless, but
Yes,
yeah.
we
could talk about it.
tease her. But so have you ever found anything when you moved into a house?
Not really.
No.
No.
I love that Geico commercial. You seen the one where the Geico lizard, gecko, whatever, goes up into the attic and he takes the guy up there with him and he says, "Oh, it's nice to see what the people have left in their house when you've bought it." And they walk up there and there's all these
yeah.
like
And he's like,
creepy
no.
mannequins and all this like weird
We
stuff.
will. Hold on. We'll do this then. The weirdest thing that we found into a hospital room when we went into it.
You have
Okay.
some experience there.
Yes, Mallory got Mallory got moved up when she was in labor with Judah. We were in labor. She was in labor with Judah. She got moved from the like maternity ward, and I'm not lying. They put us in
As a closet.
it's like a closet. But here's the thing: the whole floor just seemed like it was something straight out of a horror movie. You had the blinking lights that were just kind of
And
blinking.
it looked
But
like
here's-
it was a part they never used
Yes.
before.
Here's the
It
kicker.
was so packed. They moved me to this. In the room, they couldn't barely even fit a bed in.
And the AC unit, they had an AEC unit sitting outside our doors blowing like a tube going off this way to our room and a tube going off that way to another room. But here's the kicker though. We walk in there, we go to the bathroom, and there's urine still sitting in those little urine holders.
But
No.
you couldn't even go, like you couldn't even shut the door and go to. It was awful. It was such a bad experience.
And you delivered the baby
no,
in that room?
No, that was like a holding room. But I was like suffocating in that room because the room was so small they couldn't put the unit inside the room to blow the air, so you barely got any air in there. And so I'm in labor, and so finally my doctor came in and saw me, and she got me moved downstairs back to labor.
And this was
delivery.
Judah?
Yeah.
Yes,
This was crazy.
because I was
My
there
goodness.
like 3 days before he was born.
Yeah, you were there for a good while. All right, so
so
hold on, one more
transition.
thing.
Okay, one
We'll
more?
transition real quick. This is from your son. Let you read it.
Likely
Oh yeah, who's more likely to key your kids' unusual things?
What? I missed it. What was the
So
question?
the idea was like which one of us is more likely to let our kids do some interest or weird thing or key them into something odd? Like, so his example was like,
His
I was in
ants.
supporting his aunt Colony when you were too, but you thought it was a little weird, obviously, because you don't like bugs in the house, which I gotcha. So I supported him getting ant colony. So I spent $525 on an ant.
One ant.
One
The
ant.
singular.
ant.
Singular.
$525 on a singular ant.
Is it still alive?
Yes.
for
It's
25
supposed to be
years.
25 years
Oh,
old.
okay.
Yes.
We told him his wife's going to have to
He
be
better
okay with
marry
this.
a patient woman who loves ants.
What do you feed it?
Mealworms.
Mealworms.
Okay.
I do not feed it.
Yeah,
He
Kate
feeds
does that.
us.
All right, so the question is, we need to wrap
cheap
this up.
as this
So
man is, he bought his son a $500 ant.
Is it a big
Singular.
ant?
It's a
bigger than you'd
big
wanna find
thing you
running
wanna-
around.
You don't want to.
I mean, is it just one ant or does it propagate?
who?
Did I say that wrong?
It does have larvae babies. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to produce for 25 years.
Interesting fact about ants that
Cool.
so they only mate once in their life,
Really?
and then they can have babies for that full 25 years.
Storm says
So-
they got half price ants if you need any.
Half price. I can get one of yours for $250. Is that what you're telling me, Storm? All right.
All right, let's segue into.
Let's move on.
Let's go into. Let's talk about.
Behind the sermon.
Yep. So, what did we talk about today?
So we came out of Proverbs 14:14, talking about the backslider versus the good man, and talking about how our deeds ultimately kind of define our life and define what happens in our life. And the backslider, because of the attitudes that person has, tends to be unhappy and lacking peace in his choices. And the good man, who is guided by God and has his direction focused on God, is going to be satisfied or at peace. So I got home and my wife said, "Well, that was a really uplifting one, babe." Well, I didn't think it was a downer, because the point being that, there are people that God brings into our lives, and he calls us to, to mentor them, to lead them, to guide them, and, we're responsible for those things. So on Father's
don't screw
Day,
it up.
don't mess it up, because it's going to follow you all the way to heaven. That's right. Yeah. And as we've said many times, nothing we do here is partial. Everything is for eternity. Everything is on. So, when God puts someone in your life and puts someone in front of you, as it were, you will be held accountable. I will be held accountable for how we did. Now, my wife, who everyone talks to, will pass that test in heaven with flying colors, because Jen's never met a stranger and they always find her. I, on the other hand, am a little bit less outgoing, shall we say. Is that a fair way to say it? So this is an area I probably need to work on, because I say every preacher's preaching to himself.
I'm very, very introverted.
That's a lot.
So
All right. So here. So I want to take a passage from Jeremiah.
yeah, please jump in.
Jeremiah 8:5. Okay.
Great.
In this particular verse, Jeremiah is questioning why the people of Jerusalem has continued in a state of constant backsliding. That is, persistently moving away from God and his commandments. So,
All right, and it's, what was it, 8:5, chapter 8, verse 5?
and we will pull that up real quick.
Great, yes, pull it up on the screen.
Let's
Give you all a chance to fix your hair.
There you go.
All right, it's 8:5.
What's he saying?
I don't
What's he
know.
saying? No,
You guys,
paranoid.
you guys stop. So
All
I'm
right,
telling women they look
so
good.
Jeremiah 8:5 says, "Why then has this people, Jerusalem, turned away in continual apostasy? They hold fast to deceit, and they refuse to return." So it's talking about the turning away, and the people from Jerusalem have turned away. And one of the reasons we wanted to kind of grab onto this verse, or I wanted to grab on this verse, is because it's talking to the people in Jerusalem. It's talking to the people, God's chosen people, in his city with his temple. This time of Jeremiah, his temple with his presence there. And these people, these chosen people in this chosen city, in this chosen place, are...
Sorry.
You kill it?
I
Yep.
did.
All right.
I killed it. I didn't mean to. Sorry.
That's all right. All right. So these chosen people are backsliding to the point that he's like, what is going on with your turning away from the Lord, holding fast to deceit, refusing to return to God? And so the reason I wanted to grab onto this verse is because I think passages like this show us how easy it is for even people of spiritual blessing or spiritual, just being well off spiritually, how they can still turn away from God, backslide, even though they've got privileged spiritual position, is kind of the phrase I'm looking for. They can still backslide and end up where they didn't mean to be. And so and I thought about the American church. Just all of the blessings that we have, all of the privilege that we've had as Christians in this culture, in this community, in this society. And yet now we read, of course, again and again and again that, religion's fading, Christianity's fading, all these things that we keep reading and hearing about, which I'm not even sure I believe. But nonetheless, we're hearing all of this, and it's just, how can it be that a culture that had such privilege, Christianity that is, how can they be struggling so, and how can they be failing in making it an impact on the culture? So it's not hard to do, and you have a similar example here in Jerusalem itself out of the Old Testament.
What about this? I kind of look at Jerusalem as like the David of the country, because they constantly did things, but I'm just like, you're my people, and just they were like did everything they could to not be these people,
Right.
but
Constantly, pretty much the minute they left Egypt.
yeah, they just didn't. when did it come to a point to where they really stopped doing that?
Well, God stopped giving them opportunities in 586 BC.
Okay.
When the temple was destroyed and the Babylonians came in and took them all away for the last time. So there's that, historical answer. But on a more theological answer, I think for me, I've always been really encouraged by the fact that God was that faithful and that long-suffering with them, because that means that he'll also be that long-suffering with us. And our wives say, amen. Right? But the reality of the matter is that God will be faithful to our repeated screw-ups and our mess-ups. And so there's a real lesson there in God's faithfulness and his trustworthiness. So they're kind of a shining example for us what not to be, and how God will hang in there because they were the covenant people. And now, Christians on this side of the resurrection, we're God's children, and thankfully he is faithful to us as well.
So we're going to roll into a little talking about family.
Yep.
But hold on. It just came to mind. What comes to mind is a very good Christian family out of the Bible that just was like, they did it right. Maybe they had their ups and downs though, but just really, who comes to mind when you think of that?
Well, it's kind of an easy one for me, but probably Mary and Joseph. And we don't know a whole lot about them, but I mean, anybody, Mary's probably 13, 14, no more than 15 years old when she has this child. And that was not uncommon for that culture. That's the reason we know that's probably about the age that she was. But I don't know many 15-year-olds. Let's just take the oldest age she probably could have been. I don't know many 15-year-olds that God would say, okay, now you raise my son, the all-knowing, all-powerful Son of God. Here, you go. And Joseph, who doesn't really get much due, must have been an incredible guy, because here he is. I mean, he believes the angel in this dream not to ditch his pregnant wife who he hasn't been with. I mean, this guy, it's a lot of faith there, right? So, here they are, they raised the Son of God, which, okay, no pressure there, right? Can you imagine? Here you go. Here's my child. Raise the Son of God, the Savior of the world. Boom. Go. It's crazy.
So let me ask you this, though, and I know you probably dove into this. Society back then, with her being, was it kind of unknown for a 15-year-old or however she was to get pregnant? Was that kind of...
No, that was culturally appropriate.
That was culturally appropriate.
Yeah, in fact, she was probably closer to 13, but I just went with the higher age.
Oh, okay. So, and that wasn't... Were they married at the time then?
The Jewish practice at the time was a two-step.
Okay.
We get engaged today, but that was a legally binding step for them. So our engagement can be broken just by getting back the ring or moving on, right? But theirs was actually legally binding. So if you were found to be with child and not having been with your husband, which was the second step of an actual bridal party wedding, then that was considered legally adultery and those types of things, because you were legally bound to each other during that approximately year between those two steps.
Okay.
Where there's no legal binding for us in that point. So, there's a New Testament example. Old Testament example, that's tough, because they're pretty bad.
What about Job?
Yeah, his wife just says, why don't you curse God and die?
Yeah, okay, that's true.
So maybe not that one. But even like the patriarchs, and we're going to start in the patriarchs, you and I were talking, we're going to start studying the patriarchs, which are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I write out of Genesis in the Old Testament.
They were perfect.
They were horrible fathers. They were horrible fathers. And we've talked about this before. They just were terrible fathers. And that's one of the reasons Joseph ends up in Egypt as a slave, because his father, Jacob, is terrible. So we're going to look at some of that, and it would be harder for me to pull one up out of the Old Testament. Maybe some of our viewers can think of somebody. There are moments. David has like a lot of good years as a father, and then blows it the last half of his life. Totally blows it. So, his sons rebel against him. One of them kills the other one. It's horrible.
But I think that's the beautiful thing about the Bible, right? Is that it just shows the sinful nature of people.
Right.
It's not this book of all these perfect people. It's a book of real stuff.
And that says a lot about the Bible. It could have been written with just perfectness and all. And like Jesus could have just hung out with all the perfect people, but it's not. It's so relatable, and just you could pick out a story. Oh, I'm going through that right now. How did he handle it? Type thing.
Yeah, and there are crazy stories that you and I hopefully would never get into. that we won't even go in because it's not PG rated for some of this
I think
stuff.
of Moses when taking my son up. That would have been. I don't know how he did that.
You mean Abraham taking up Isaac?
his son.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
with you.
know
I'm with
how
you.
I could do
I mean,
that.
right? Yeah.
I'm like, that's awful. I
sure.
I just don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, some tough stuff in there. So I think, Jen, I mean, that's the right point. Is that whenever you're feeling bad about something you've done, you say, well, I didn't have an affair with someone and then send their husband off to war to die. I mean, if you set the bar low enough, everybody succeeds, right? So I'm doing all right. And this guy was called a man after God's own heart. So further up, further in, guys.
So that's true. David.
Poor David.
Yes, he is.
But Solomon was even worse. God love him. Okay, God love him. This guy had like 20 years of reign where he was like the epitome of the Old Testament king. I mean, did everything so good. And then he got 900 wives and it all went downhill from there.
But you know what? I love his story, though. He felt like he had everything, but
You
he
didn't even let me sit on that joke, dude.
I didn't know. I didn't know you were joking. I missed the
I'm not
punchline.
joking.
I missed the punchline.
It's all good. All right, so what are you going to say?
I like Solomon's story. He had everything, but he didn't because he didn't have Jesus Christ, and that's kind of why he felt like he.
Well, and he kind of sold himself out.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's a different story for a different day. But he kind of sold himself out. So it does kind of lead into how hard it is to do family right and how hard it is to lead well and the struggles, because now we're talking about Solomon and David. We're talking 3,000 years ago.
Still happening.
It's happening right around the corner every single day, where just humanity struggles to raise up the next generation well. We struggle to pass on the faith at times. We struggle to, just in our own sinfulness, do it well. So that's kind of some of the things we want to talk about tonight. We weren't, in full disclosure, we weren't completely sure like where this conversation was going to end. So we're going to kind of freewheel it here a little bit.
So your involvement would be great. So if you have any questions,
Sure.
or if you know anything, a lot of you guys may know a little bit about the families. So chime in and just join us. So
Yeah, so just talking about how difficult it can be, and we're not going to get political. We had that conversation earlier. We're not going to get because there's a lot of cultural forces and a lot of cultural chaos right now that is affecting the family, and so we're not going to take a political stance one way or the other. But we are going to say that it's clear to anybody who's paying any attention that there's a lot of cultural chaos in how you raise families. And how you raise them in a Christian environment with Christian ideals. Again, that's not a political statement, that's a theological statement. So how do we do that well? How do we guide and direct? How are we, Tim and I, good fathers, since it is Father's Day? I told our wives a little while earlier they could just sit around and talk about how wonderful we were, and it'd be a great show. They shot me down. But, so do we have a particular section we want to go to?
well, let's start with.
Well, what do y'all want to say? Y'all been kind of quiet.
You guys have been quiet over there. Let me see if I can help you guys out.
Okay, yeah, help us.
Let me see. Okay.
AI to the rescue.
No, stop that.
Oh my!
All right, you gotta stop.
Does he do the AI stuff at home? Is he always like looking stuff up?
Sometimes, but actually, I've had to ask him a couple times. Like, hey, can you write me this letter? He typed, what do you want us to say? I give him the key points.
Here it is.
That's very cool.
All right, so
What you got?
this is for all of y'all.
All right.
He's changing the topic.
Changes that you know. Say
How
to that.
has your faith helped in your parenting and your coping with the trials and tribulations within your just bringing up your kids? Because I know from our family we've had some medical issues, but so how has your faith guided you on that?
Yeah, and to give you a little bit of background before you guys answer, I mean, both sets of our kids, both sets of us have 3 kids, and both of us have had medical issues with our children. And there's one of the toughest things I think you can go through is when your own kid is having an issue. So those are kind of ongoing for us. So we'll kind of touch on that and move on. We're not going to get too much in the details, but I think that's a great question. How does our faith kind of illuminate or highlight how we do parenting and how we do family life? So what do you guys think? What comes to mind first?
I mean, for me, my faith has gotten me through. It's given a peace. Like I've just had a peace through everything. Like you touched on, there's the medical stuff that from birth, from our one child
Right.
on to still ongoing now.
Right.
But there's this piece, but it's also being connected with your church family too. You're not just going through it alone. So you
Right.
have people to encourage you. I think it's important, to be involved in a church where you have the community,
The support.
the support. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, it's just, the relationship, the talking to each other, I'm lucky for friends at work who have the same beliefs, as well as here. So that's really been, but I have felt a peace, and that only comes from my faith and knowing the Bible and the Word, just having the scriptures, handy.
Yeah, and not to deviate from the point, but so much right now of what I get to read in my job is about like, people aren't coming back to church, or how are we going to get them back to church, or what about the people who aren't coming, or about all these nuns, NES, that don't go to church, and the church is dying, all these kinds of things. And I think that one of the things that you hit on is that the church is not supposed to be a perfect place full of perfect people, and it is supposed to be a place where we get encouragement for and with each other. So if you're sitting here tonight and you're saying, well, I don't need to be at church. I can get church anywhere. I had a guy say to me one time, I can talk to God in my garage. Well, it's absolutely true. Talk to God anywhere. But the reason that church is so powerful and helpful is that you get to laugh and cry together.
Right.
You don't do it on your own. You don't face those things. And if you have a good church family, then you can all be in together and you can be real with people. You don't have to put on the fake mask of, everything's fine, everything's fine. But you actually can be lifted up by it. So, if you're not connected to a church family, please connect at least with us on this. You connect to our church in the Sunday morning if that's what your need is. And that's not really even a plug just for our church, but it's a plug to get connected. And preferably you get connected at your local level with people that can hug you in the morning when they see you and can give you a handshake. Or, if you've had a rough week, somebody there that you can talk to. So, I'm not trying to take a different path, but I think
that's great. And like our women's Bible study,
Yeah,
it's
there you go.
multi-generational. So it's not just like, sometimes your Sunday school classes are more people your age and
phase of life,
but
right?
the women's Bible study, it's nice to get perspectives from all different stages of life. Everyone kind of but we can relate in different ways. And so it's just nice for that encouragement and to listen, because sometimes you might be struggling with something you don't think others are. And you find out that they're kind of going through that same thing, and just the encouragement. And then again, because I could do the Bible studies at home, but to do it with other people.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. Yeah. We have just been having conversations here at the church. And again, this is Smithfield Baptist Church here in Smithfield, Virginia. We've been having conversations about some of our, particularly in this case, ladies in our congregation who have gone through grief, have lost their husbands. And so we've been having conversations over the last 2 or 3 weeks about, how can we specifically minister to that group of our church family that's really struggling, and there's some who really are hurting over that. So again, you find they're not all necessarily the same age, but they're all going through the same phase of life and same experience. So how can we lift them up in that and support them in that? And so some things are in the works, so we're trying to figure that out for them.
All right, so I got a good question. This is really going to touch. We could dive deep in this one. In an era where technology is so pervasive, how do you guide your children to use it that aligns with your Christian values? As a family, how do we do that? I know, that's
It's hard.
It is.
Well, and some families don't realize this because it's not really the education about how you can control children's media. Like, we have a lot of parental blocks in place, but not everyone knows that. Honestly, I didn't know that until my sister had told us a few years ago.
We had certain things, but we
but
made
now
it.
we
It
lock
just
it down
streamlined
to
it a
where
lot
they
better.
can't get on the internet. Like, they can get on the internet, but they can't get on.
My kids
Safari.
can't go out into the World Wide Web without.
They can't get on
without us.
YouTube. If they want to watch a YouTube video for some reason that they would need, we can push it out to them, the one they need. So they're not exploring things. They're not going down rabbit holes.
Right.
Because
But even with those things, it still has created questions for us to have to answer, and with explanations of and whatnot. So, but the Woods, what do you guys do? You guys do the same thing? What do you
we have a little struggle actually with our 5-year-old who loves YouTube.
He's 6 now.
6 now, you're right. And I mean, the thing is, he doesn't. Well, it's not. You don't really know what he gets and what he doesn't. The thing is, he loves YouTube because he loves watching. It's so bizarre to me. Like I was having this conversation with our office manager the other day. It's like, when I was a kid, watching other people play video games was a lesson in patience. I had to wait for them to finish so I could get my turn. It's like, are you done yet? Would you just die in this game so I can play? Right? Come on, seriously? True. And now my kids will sit on YouTube or something similar, kids YouTube, whatever, and watch other people who they will never meet play a video game that we played when we were like 6 and 7 years old. It's the most bizarre experience. Watching my 6-year-old watch other people play video games.
It's frustrating too because you think they're watching whatever.
Ninja Turtles,
X,
whatever.
Y, Z.
Yeah, right.
Yes, Ninja Turtles is a great example. And then all of a sudden there's some ridiculously inappropriate ad that pops up or they sneak something in the stream that you're not expecting. So my guard's down because I'm like, oh, he's watching Ninja Turtles, but it's not really Ninja Turtles.
Or it takes a turn.
It takes a turn, and it's really inappropriate, and it's adult content very quickly. So
And
I
that's
don't
even
know.
on KidsTube.
Yes.
And we've had to teach our kids, when it's not appropriate, you need to turn it off. Like
Sure.
if they're saying things, we don't allow you to say,
Right.
even though it's kids and it looks like it. But if it's not something that is allowed at our house, then you need to turn it off.
That's right.
And our older ones are good about that.
Right.
But our youngest
is
is still learning, and he doesn't, and he.
I'll let Mallory answer this one. So because I know the answer. We don't let none of our kids have it, but I don't know where you guys stand. But y'all could chime in. But I'll let you answer why we don't. Is social media. I mean, we keep our kids as far away from that as possible, and just in no due time do I plan to have them on social media at all.
No, and Lila's she's a preteen, those years that's going to be coming, but the problems that I've seen come with it, it's just not worth it. I mean, we're not even allowing the cell phone. I think we're going to get the Gizmo watch.
The Gizmo. We had that.
Yes, where, she can reach us if she needs to, but
Yeah.
Not anybody else.
Caden has
And Caden's older than your oldest.
Right.
So he's about 5-6 years older than your oldest?
So how old is Caden?
11. She'll be 11.
Oh, is she that old? I'm sorry. Okay, so about 3 years. Okay, all right, okay.
He's 13. He's going to be 14.
Yep.
But he does have a Facebook account that he does not use because he's so into his ants right now. He uses it for that.
Okay.
So he will get on and look up. There's ant groups. So he will look up information about.
He's watching right now. It's like, this is cool.
Yes. So.
Probably my biggest fear with social media is because you've heard these horror stories, and I just heard one recently about the bullying and how it's pushed kids to actually do things that we just couldn't imagine.
Right.
And that's probably my biggest fear is because I could beat a 5th grader, not a problem at all.
Oh, yeah. You couldn't take a picture of the stupid things I did.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God.
We
There were
don't have
pictures
to deal
floating
with
around.
that.
I've seen that meme around, and it's actually really, really good.
crazy.
It's about when we were growing up, and in short, when we were growing up, we could just get away with anything, and if we messed up, the kids would just laugh at us for a day or so, and then we just move on.
They do something stupid, it would all even out.
Yep. And now, if the kids do it, it's recorded, it's put on the internet forever. And,
It goes viral,
and
and next thing you know,
The next thing you know, it just snowballs out of control, and kids are just put on this pedestal of, think of the, and I don't know, some people may know who the Star Wars kid is. Back in the day when the memes really got funny, he was filmed with a broomstick, and he was doing like Star Wars type stuff and all. And he went as a meme because people put the actual lightsabers on there, and it just went total. I mean, he's one of the original OG meme kids, but it really took a toll on him because they did some research or some interviews with him and all. So.
But that's the thing. Like, even though we don't allow our child to have social media, it doesn't mean they're not going to be bullied on social media.
That's true.
So I think that's why you still have to have those conversations with your kids.
Good point.
And just where they can talk, because you don't know. And I mean, when they're at school, like our child goes to public school, so like we're not there, so you don't know what the interactions are. So it's just more conversations.
It's really hard because, our oldest, Caden, wanted a cell phone. That's, the cool thing to have right now. And he does have a little phone that we've allowed him to use, but there's certain rules that we have along with that, and he is a rule follower, so don't really need to worry. But at the same time, we've had these conversations with text messages and other things that will forever haunt you if, God forbid you make a mistake, which kids make mistakes.
And in his defense, he has not. I mean,
No,
you're not saying
no,
that. Right.
He
He's
has
not made
not.
any mistakes. That's not the issue. The point is, though, that what you're saying, I mean, you could say something stupid and you never get away from it. Like you had told him, I mean, it could be, he'll come up for your job interviews. It'll come up for your education. It'll come up,
It can
forever.
prevent you from going to college, from getting a job, all these crazy things.
There's a, I think he was at high school going into college, and he had posted something that was inappropriate on Twitter and lost all his. He's like a 4-star going into and lost all his stuff and all, and it was all because of the mistake that he posted on his social media. Social media is rough.
It's dangerous.
And kids can't think that far
they can't.
out.
No,
so
they think something's funny, or they reacting to something, and
that's very true.
Yeah.
All right,
and it carries, unlike us, when I did something stupid at 16, it doesn't follow me for the rest of my life.
Well, and I even gave Caden an example. I said, when we were in high school, I remember passing notes with my friends. I'd write my little note and make it in a cool little shape and then pass it to my girlfriend in the hallway, and she would read it, and then she would throw it in the trash can. And if she dropped it, number one, there were 7 million gens, so you're not really going to connect it back to me. But if someone did find it, then it was tore up at some point, and it just wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Passed into the pages of history.
Exactly. With these text messages, it could be screenshot and.
Yeah, it's forever.
Do those things.
Yes. Yes.
All right, hey, real quick, I'm gonna do another question, but I want to put out here to the viewers. If you guys have any questions, I mean, you got a plethora of knowledge here that we could throw out to you. So if you're struggling with anything, or if you have any, especially on the technology side, I'd be more than happy to chime in. So if you have anything, let us know. But I'm gonna go into this question, but I'm gonna put this out here, especially with our older ones coming up. Okay. Because I forgot
older
kids.
Children.
Yeah, older kids.
What?
Did you just insult my wife?
No.
You're older than me, dude.
Yeah, she's my age. Mallory's the baby.
I'm the baby.
So,
That's true.
so I really think that this could come up, and I want to hear y'all's just opinion on it. So, what advice do you give? What advice do we give our children about maintaining their faith when faced with doubt or criticism? Because that's going to come up. Without a doubt, we know it's going to come up, and they may come into you guys and to us and be like, "Well, why do we go to church every Sunday? Why do we do this?" I mean,
what's the question again? Say it one more time.
What advice do you give your children about maintaining their faith when faced with doubt and criticism?
I don't think we've had so much of that yet.
Not yet.
Saying
That's
that,
what I'm saying.
I'm not saying
And I'm saying
that
yet
will never
for both
happen.
of us.
But one thing that has come up is kids saying things to him or to our children about why are you in church as much as you are, or the fact that your dad is a pastor, or that you only listen to Christian music, or that you and those things can be hard on a kid. And so how do you respond to that? It's you
don't want to stick out as a teenager.
You don't want to stick
That's
out.
the absolute thing you do not want to do. You don't want to be the unique one or the odd one, or all the things that we value as we get older are like an anathema when you're a teenager, right? You got to wear the same clothes, you got to have the same shoes, you got to have all the same music, you got to have all the whatever. And I think that is a rub for them in a really kind of non-Christian culture now, because that's pretty much where we are. I mean, it is hard to be unique in that situation, regardless of the schooling situation, regardless of the environment. I mean, it's good school, bad school, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I mean, ultimately, you're going to, in your faith, going to have to be unique at some point. And that's not easy.
And it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just an easy example, like, so today was our last flag football game that I'm coaching my son's team. And it's only a 7-week season. But, I mean, for, the last few weeks, we've kind of come back in here pretty quick to be able to go live online with everyone. But I mean, this was the first season this spring football league, where they had so much popularity and so many teams that they were scheduling it before I was even out of work. And so I've done this for 4 years or so and never had a problem making the games in the afternoon and being able to coach. And like they were starting games before we were done with our services. So, it's that culture. And I tell you, I first heard about this whole situation with Sunday sports and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not even beating up on it. I'm just saying it's just another example of the culture and that sometimes we're called to be unique. I mean, so I first heard about this whole, sports all weekend long from friends in seminary who were from California. And this is 2000. And they're telling me about this cultural change out there on the West Coast, because I've always been an East Coast guy. And they're talking about this change in the West Coast where they're starting to have all their soccer leagues and stuff all days on Sundays. And in 2000, I'm like, that's crazy. I've never even heard of that, because I'm a kind of a deep South Eastern Coast guy, and I never even heard of it. And so now, fast forward 23 years later, and here I am. I can't even coach my kids' league because I'm at work.
Do you think that goes with your sermon today, though? How it's
an easy slope.
Easy slope.
Yeah. And again, don't get us wrong. We're not trying to, if you were at the football field or you were at the baseball field, or we have a lot of kids who play soccer, so that a lot of those games are on Sunday mornings. So it's not criticism. It's not like, you're being bad parents. It's more just about acknowledging that our culture really has kind of moved on beyond lifting up Christians. And to circle full back around, then that means that inevitably our kids are going to be unique as our culture is no longer Christian.
Just to put this in perspective, because I don't think it was maybe when we were Caden's age, to where nothing was open on Sundays.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, you might have had a few food places and all, but most people, they made their big dinners right before coming to church and all. Yeah, nothing was open.
But now the pushback on that, though, right? And here's the pushback on that, is that, cultural Christianity is not necessarily strong Christianity. Okay, so cultural Christianity can be a religion being propped up, but not being powerful or alive. And so I, for one, think it's actually a good thing that the church and the culture are not so intertwined that we can't make the distinction. And a lot of people who lived in Mayberry, in those 60s, 70s, 80s, and I just always laugh at them and say, look, I wasn't alive in the 60s, but I've read about it. And it was not as perfect as you guys seem to remember it was. All right. And then they all chuckle and we go on about our day. But the reality of the matter is, anytime, and I've said this in services, anytime the culture and the church are intertwined and are hard to separate or are not distinguishable from each other, the church always loses. Always. Historically. For 2,000 years, the church loses that deal. So I, for one, think that this whole nuns, N-O-N-E-S, is actually an incredible opportunity for people who are in the church to actually be on fire for God and for the church to really be powerful in its uniqueness. But that's hard on a kid. And that's hard on a teenager. And it is hard on adults. I mean, I have the blessing of working in a Christian environment right here at the church, right? But, I've been in secular, shall we say, workplaces, and, you're kind of like always the odd guy, right? You're always the weirdo.
It is. It's funny you say that because I don't use foul language, and a lot of people know that, especially at work. And I've been asked, why don't you cuss? And I just
why don't you be one of us?
Yeah,
right?
well, I just don't. I said, I'm a Christian. I get, just don't like it.
Which is a powerful ministering moment.
It is.
But is another example of how the culture is not inherently Christian in its structure anymore.
But here's the funny part.
Yeah.
Certain individuals will cuss in front of me and then
apologize. Exactly.
to me.
It's bizarre.
It is.
It's bizarre. And people find out that I'm a pastor, and it's like all of a sudden they go mute.
Or they tell you all their sins.
Or they start confessing.
They confess.
Yeah, it's one of the two.
It's bizarre.
So true story, and I'll make it very quick. We went down our first year here, our first summer here in Smithfield, 4 years ago now. Our car broke down in Florida. Lousy day. Finally, after much heat and frustration and angst, I get in the car on a tow truck. Right, not in the car. The car's on the tow truck. I get in with the guy.
The tow truck driver.
Yeah, the tow truck driver.
Right.
And now my kids, my wife have already gotten home. They're on their way back. Everybody's safe. But I'm riding with this guy. And his language is just, I mean, curl your toes kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh gosh, this guy's going to ask me what I do.
Did he? Oh, that's funny.
He's going to ask me what I do. And then there's not going to be another word said the rest of the ride, right? It was like an hour and a half drive. I mean, we had a ways to go. I'm like, this is going to go south so fast. So thankfully, he was so self-absorbed, he never actually asked me. So it worked out okay. But that's kind of like my life.
That would have been funny, though.
Well, yeah, but awkward for the next hour, you know?
But it's awkward even with me not be. I mean, when they find out that I'm married to you, people assume certain things that I'm going to be a certain way, or that my children are going to be a certain way, and then they suddenly go mute.
So, all right, just because I want to go, I know
Or start confessing.
We won't go to a rabbit hole here, but what you're saying is, when they find out you're a pastor's wife,
Yes.
things change.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Yes. I mean, they assume that, like, I'm kind of this, I don't know, that everything is perfect and that my children are all well behaved and that I should, my house is perfectly clean, which you've been in my house, so you know that that's not the case. That,
It's not bad.
that
It's not bad.
But you know what?
It has 3 children.
It's
I homeschool and I have 3 kids.
So I'm gonna get on my
Not bad.
soapbox about you two real quick, okay?
About you two?
About you two.
Oh,
about the
you
woods.
two.
The woods, real quick.
Oh.
Listen, you individuals.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm gonna
I
get on my
thought you said
soapbox. here.
about
I've
you.
always said this, and I really, really say this with like. I think
no.
it's
I don't
awesome.
know what he's
No,
gonna
no, no. This is good.
Where's this going?
You guys, I've seen a
Hold
lot of
on.
pastors. You guys come off as the most relatable type pastors and the pastor wife that I've ever seen. That's to me. I feel like granted, I know you guys on a really personal level, but I feel like you guys are a whole lot more relatable than any pastor, wife, husband I've ever seen. So.
Well, because I don't want to put on a show.
That's
I mean, life
good,
is
and I
life
don't-
is messy, and I can't hold on to a show. You know what I mean? Like if I'm not gonna pretend with you because I can't.
Can't
I'm
maintain
not,
it, right?
I can't maintain
Yeah.
it, right?
Right.
So you might as well just see who we are. And I'm sorry if we don't.
No,
Rise up to
but
the level.
It's great though.
Good, thank you.
It's
but
great.
but some people don't think so.
But how many times?
That's
How many times have you guys been put on a pedestal that just
you can't maintain?
Yeah, that's hard for you guys.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say it was harder when I wasn't the senior pastor.
Okay.
Because you had the senior pastor in several of our churches who was saying, this is what you will look like.
Oh.
And so you have to fit into that mold. Now, once I became the senior pastor and could be me, we do actually get that a fair amount. And I think that it's something that's just kind of who we are. But I think the reality is it's kind of our perception of what ministry is. I mean, and you've heard me say, but Mallory, Tim, you've heard me say many times. In fact, I said it today. There's no one perfect in this building. No one, including the pastors
You said that
talking.
in the pulpit
I said in the pulpit
Yes.
today, and I say it regularly because it is a complete farce to pretend that somehow we are all perfect people dependent upon our role.
Yes.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And it's not healthy. It's not good for the church. It's not good for the people. It's not good at any level. But I think pastors, many times, feel they have to take on a role and they have to live up to whatever the standard is. And the reality is, no one can live up to it.
Or that their wives
Yep.
and their children need to be a certain way. That I should be sitting
on the kids.
Yeah, that I should be like the piano playing, cake making, some kind of I don't
Fancy
even
dress
know.
wearing.
And that's not what's that fancy
Fancy
dress.
dress
Yeah,
wearing.
I'm here in my ripped jeans. You can't see my jeans, but no. That's not who we are. That's not who Jesus called me to be. And I'm going to be real with you. And I will be there when you need me. And you can come to my messy house anytime you want and drink. But I'm saying there
Yes.
are people that would, they're not real because
Yeah.
they're expecting everyone to keep them at some kind of level that's not real.
And to be fair, some pastors try to maintain that facade because it's part of what they need and it's part of their self-identification.
And there are some congregations who expect that. And thank goodness that's not the case here.
Right, that's true.
But there are some congregations that expect
And
that from the pastor and
And
the
I
family.
can speak too because I work with Patrick, and I just feel like it would not be it just wouldn't be a good working environment if you were just uptight and you were like, Tim, you have to do this. Tim, you need to wear a suit every Sunday. Tim, you need to do this. No, that just wouldn't be fun. I'd just be like, you know what? Record your own service.
Good luck. Sally forth.
Well, hey, real quick, Storm, because I just want to go back to it. Back to the sports thing. She said in Smithfield, we used to have Sunday sports except for girls softball, and that was in the afternoon. She says this has only evolved in the last 10 years, which I think we all kind of agree with.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, I think Storm, I think that's a good point. And not trying to beat up on anybody who does that with their kids or the coaches who are doing it, because you're pouring into the lives of youth. I mean, we're not trying to criticize that. We're just trying to say it is an example of how the culture has shifted in our lifetimes, in how they view a worship day or the church in general. So it's just a reality that we have to face, and it's a reality that our kids will face in the next generations even more so. So it is something that kind of coming again full circle is how we raise our kids to be strong in their faith, which I think is part of the first question you asked, and to be willing to be unique and somewhat, I had a book when I was a teenager that my parents gave me that I read and really had an impact on me. And the title of the book, that's really all I remember, is that it was Dare to Be Different.
I've heard that before.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was probably pretty popular at our
Okay, I
age.
think so.
But, it made a huge impact on me. I think I was probably 5th grade, right? But having some of the same struggles of like, okay, how are you to be different when you're surrounded by 20 kids who, maybe they're not seeing the world the way you see it or the way the world, your parents see it or whatever. And so just the desire, the willingness, the courage, daring to be different. So it is an ongoing, I think, generational thing where we have to kind of prepare each generation for it.
All right. So we're going to start wrapping up a little bit, but this question is for the wives, the moms, okay? All right. What advice would you give to, and now let's keep the fathers out of it. What advice would you give to other moms that are raising kids in this environment and with Christian values? What kind of advice would you give them to kind of keep it going?
I would say don't do it alone. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. You need to find your support.
Okay, so we'll
Especially
bring the
other
fathers
moms
into
who are
it then.
going through, it's nice to know that Jen has 3 kids, we have 3 kids. Life can be crazy. Things are coming up. Our kids aren't perfect, but we can relate to that. We can build each other up.
Yeah, so wherever you could find your support,
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a father, but it does need to be a safe space where you can get the support you need when things go south, right? I
You
agree
need
with
your
completely.
people.
You need your
Find
people.
your people.
Your tribe, right?
Yes.
Find your people that have the same convictions that you do.
And I think that's important.
That's important because
Right.
I can call Mallory and be like, "Hey, I'm drowning in X, Y, and Z, and I know that I can trust an answer that she's going to give me."
Do we need to take the kids for a couple hours?
Yeah, sure. When do you want to do that?
Wait.
Do
What-
you
you
want
both
to take
are
the kids
supposed
for a
to
couple of
take the
hours?
kids.
Yes, I think.
That was the agreement,
Yeah,
right?
we agreed to come on if
I told him I'll
We're
take
gonna-
him. You got to get him on board.
Eject.
I'll take him.
No.
my.
Well, I'm gonna. In my defense, I'm gonna have them while you're gone with our daughter for the kids camp.
that
So,
I have more children.
Yeah, but that's an official
How is
capacity.
that
Trading
Exactly.
two others
Trading 2
Yes.
for
how many
8
more?
more.
How many kids? What? I don't see how that's supposed to be a vacation that
I
I'm
didn't
going
say it was
to.
vacation. I agree with you. It won't be vacation.
Oh my goodness.
Won't be vacation.
No. I get-
So
What were you talking
coming
about?
back to it, just how yeah, we're distracted.
Guys, I can't keep you guys on task the whole time. Y'all gotta
How would you
Well,
encourage
yeah.
other
Yep.
mothers?
So we
You gotta
said find your tribe.
You got to find your people.
Yep.
Right.
And you've got to find your people that your moms that have the Christian values that you have.
Right. Yeah.
That you can call and be real with, because you need to be able to be real with
Right.
them. And be able to talk through stuff without being the fear of rejection or the fear of somebody thinking that you're,
Right.
Well, you need
Terrible.
your support network to be able to have a baseline of fellow beliefs, because they can't give you good advice and help you the way you need it if you have different opinions on basic things and raising your kids or technology or
And people who are going to
faith.
pray for you.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
encourage you.
People who are going to pray for you that really care. We were talking about this today in our Sunday school class. People that are really going to remember, hey, you're going through that, and I need to be reaching out, and I need to be there. How can we be a support for you?
Right.
Great.
So one of the best advice I could give is lead by example. Children learn from what they see than what they are told. So live out your Christian values daily, exhibiting love, kindness, patience, and forgiveness. That naturally will pick up these values from us.
Is that you?
That was
Your
me.
advice?
Yeah, that was my advice. All right, historical.
That was good advice.
I don't. Storm needs to get it together.
Storm?
needs to
Especially
get
the
it together.
dads
She-
take the
kids.
kids. Yes.
Storm needs to get it together.
Windstorm, right?
But Storm wants to
Storm,
join
you can
them.
come with
That's the thing.
Absolutely.
Come
She's
with
part
us.
of our group.
Yes, Storm can come.
Part of your tribe,
Yeah,
The
right?
tribe.
Yes, Storm can come with us, hang out.
That's all right. David can come hang out with us then.
I think David already raised his.
Yeah, that's what he says. All right, so we're about to wrap up our time here tonight. Come full circle. Y'all survived it. I'm proud of you, girls. Thank you very much.
Yes,
How
it was
do
great.
we want to sign off on this?
Well, first, I always want to throw out there, does anybody have any questions or answers? And while you think about that, I think next week we're going to have, we'll go ahead and say it. I think we're going to have Harry on next week.
Okay, great.
And,
but that doesn't mean anything to people who aren't
No,
watching.
that's fine. So they'll have to tune in.
So we have if Harry's our guest, and I trust you on that one, then we have a really great life story about a gentleman who's very accomplished and has been a great leader in a variety of different places and ways here at the church, in the military.
How come we didn't
in
get
private.
that introduction?
I know.
Seriously,
Yeah, it'll be, it's
Harry?
really?
Because you
We
guys,
didn't get that
you guys,
kind of. I didn't get that introduction about
It
how
just-
accomplished I was.
well, how accomplished are you?
You are very accomplished.
Very much. It's true.
She is.
And she's cute.
Anyway, stop flirting with the guest.
He's trying to look good after he made
That's
that
right.
comment about he's not going to watch our kids so that I can
I
go
wasn't
out.
going to watch my kids. I just
Y'all
wasn't-
heard it.
I
didn't you?
was
Now
not-
it's-
And we should
I
have
was
got it on
simply
recording
not
before this
saying
started.
I was
that
not
we
as
were gonna take
eager
the
as
kids.
Tim was. That's all I'm going to say.
See, I do
Daddy didn't
Tim
anything,
was like, yeah.
I will do anything that makes my wife happy.
Oh, will you?
Oh,
Include getting rid of some of your
And
shirts?
we have that recording.
get rid of your shirts.
Yes.
You sentimental hoarder.
You should see the amount of shirts. And they're very organized. And they're hanging very nice and neat.
Are they color coordinated?
They're done by
No.
long sleeves, short sleeves.
All I have to tell you how organized Patrick's closet is because I keep it in order.
See, here's the problem. So we know it's not. So here's the problem. Also, just real quick. So I've self-diagnosed myself. Actually, no, my mom says I'm big diagnosed with ADHD.
Yes, Tim.
No.
So why am I so organized?
It's okay.
then? But why am I so organized?
Because you can hyper focus.
But that's why you don't go back to fix it, because now you have it done and you don't want to change it.
I am finding out.
You're just figuring this
my
out.
hyper focusedness is out of control. It's just out of control. I can basically just make anything. It just is just out of control. I fixate on something and then I just want to figure it all out.
Yeah, see, I fixate on something and then it has to happen right then.
No,
But then I don't necessarily complete it.
no. I got
I start lots of things.
like 5 things that I'm ready to just dive into.
But do you finish them?
I will eventually.
That's the problem.
That's the
I
problem,
have
yeah.
too. Like I
Eventually-
decided to rip up the floor one day because I had enough of it.
At your old house or this house too?
Oh, how
I mean, I know you replaced the
House.
floor at your other house,
Yes,
right?
yeah. I got tired of it, and so I mentioned to Patrick that morning that I had enough of the floor, and he said, "Well, we can look into fixing it." And I waited till he walked out the door, and I sent the kids outside, and all the carpet was gone within an hour. And I sent a picture of.
What was your response, Patrick?
It's not appropriate for this type of format.
Whose idea was the rocks?
Which
rocks?
The rocks.
Oh, hers.
Exactly.
So that's the other.
Does her ADHD get you in trouble?
I get all kinds of jobs because of her ADD. My lifestyle is because of her ADD.
That's
Do you know how many things that are exciting things you have gotten to do
That is
because
absolutely
of my
true.
adventurous spirit?
That is absolutely true.
So we wanted a walkway laid. For those of you that don't know, I know you two know because
Yes.
you've been to my house, but we wanted a walkway laid, and that's expensive, and we
is.
didn't really have the funding for that. So I saw these gentlemen that were ripping up an old driveway, and
This is true. You had a pile of rocks like as tall as me in your front yard.
This will be great.
I embarrassed. Oh, so these guys were ripping up the our neighbor has
The
a
neighborhood could afford to put in a new
they had
walkway.
they have a beautiful walkway that they ripped up, and I was like, that's a nice walkway. I want that trash. So because I also like other people's stuff, like yard sale stuff. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on my tangent. So
Focus.
I'm focused.
All right.
So there were all these rocks, and they were going to throw them out. And so I saw opportunity. So I went up to the men, and I was like, can I have the rocks? But they didn't speak English. And so Caden is dying. We're in the front of the he's in the front of the minivan. He's like turning all shades of purple and like trying to hide because now, he's being associated with I want your rock trash. So I take my phone and I'm saying, how do you say I want the rocks in Spanish? I held it up to the
Oh my goodness.
because they were trying to communicate and they had no idea what I was saying and they're looking at me like I'm crazy. I don't know what my phone said to these gentlemen, but I guarantee it was not I want your rocks. I don't know what it was, but they just looked really horrified and Caden is dying. Eventually we figured it out and they understood what I wanted and they took this big dump truck thing and they dumped all the rock trash in my yard. And then my husband and my son lovingly moved all the rocks.
Did you run this past Patrick before you
No,
dumped all the rocks?
I was surprising him.
Oh.
It was a surprise, all right.
You like to surprise him,
I
don't you?
do. Look, I ripped up all of the carpet.
So our next time that we're together will be a conversation on how you maintain peace and unity in the home.
That might be a good one. I mean, we could
Our
go
house
on
is
this.
peaceful. Well,
Yes. Until you surprise me.
whatever. You
Whatever.
Love it.
Oh, hold on. What about those tents you had?
Yeah.
The
All right, so
tents-
we're going to close down tonight.
You don't remember the tents?
What tent?
The tents that got destroyed in the wind that were in the backyard.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so we digress.
Anyway, yeah.
But it
All right.
proves our point. But glad you could be with us tonight.
I didn't make him live in a tent.
No.
Other viewers are thinking,
Okay. All right. Let me reel it back in. 'Cause I really went off. We got a little off. But hey, first and foremost, thank you for tuning in and sticking with us. We had a lot of fun with you guys and ladies. Is there anything else?
Now, join us next week. We'll still be back here at 8 o'clock, right around 8 o'clock. Glad you're with us. Thank you. We love you both. Thank
Pray
you
us
for being
out
here with
real
us.
quick.
Yeah, let's pray out. And again, catch it up later this week. If you can share it with your friends, put it out. We're getting more and more comfortable and getting closer and closer to the point where we're going to try to kind of encourage everybody to share this so that we can continue to impact people. Goal is to increase discipleship and strengthen people in their Christian walk. Just be real. So here we are, being real, being a little goofy and having fun, but it's who we are, and that's what God's called us to be together in community. So thank you, Mallory, for bringing up that point. Thank you both for being here. Love you guys. And let's pray it out, and we will sign off. So, Lord, our God, our Father in heaven, we do thank you for families. Sometimes they're a little broken. Sometimes they're a little bit damaged. Sometimes they're difficult. But we thank you for the wisdom in them. For those who are lacking some family or missing loved ones or whatever their particular case may be, we pray that you would be their source of strength, their source of community, and that you would guide and lead them to the people who can be with them in difficult times, who can be their support group, who can be their tribe. Lord, we pray that you'll use this message tonight and this podcast to strengthen others, to give them a sense of community, even though it's online, and just give an opportunity where we can be real together. We praise your name for all that you do for us. We praise your name for your Son, for our salvation, And we just pray that you'll guide and direct us in all we do for your glory alone. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, good night, friends. Have a good one. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.